Republican Congressman Trent Franks went on MSNBC to discuss this recent sham hearing that they're doing on Planned Parenthood, and he made an unfortunate comparison.
Back again now under Kevin McCarthy, do you think, with the new speaker? Do you expect this issue to rear up again?
I think so. You know, this country, the last issue that tore us apart like this was slavery. And it was the same argument. Those that were for slavery said, well, there's not really a personhood here. There's no person involved here. The Supreme Court said the same thing, just like they did in Roe versus Wade. But there were those who understood that the foundational core principle that made this country what it was that we believe that all of us are created, and that makes us equal. And that means that we should protect the most innocent among us, and that's the greatest test of who we are, is how we treat those who cannot defend themselves. And there is no one more defenseless in all of humanity than these little unborn children.
Arizona Congressman Trent Franks, Republican from Arizona.
The hearing that they're having, do you guys understand it has nothing to do with abortion? So they're having the hearing on Planned Parenthood, and they're talking about abortion nonstop. But this has nothing to do with abortion, because all the funding that the federal government gives to Planned Parenthood is going towards other things that Planned Parenthood does. They're already not allowed to take federal tax dollars and put it towards abortion. So for the 3% of the work that they do that is abortion, people pay out of pocket. So all these guys are grandstanding over abortion and acting like a big moral issue. Oh, yes, so we got to cut off funding to Planned Parenthood because of abortion. Well, dipshit, mission accomplished. You can fly the banner that George Bush has probably in his attic right now. Because you win. The Hyde Amendment makes it so that federal tax dollars do not fund abortion. So let's wrap this up here, big guy. I want to press the button from the Chappelle Show. Wrap it up. You're done. Isn't it incredible that apparently he didn't stop and think for a second and go, you know, this is actually pretty disrespectful to former slaves and to the families of people who have ancestors who were slaves, to basically compare a fetus, and in some cases, because this guy's an extremist, so he goes further, embryos, zygotes, and gametes to human beings. He's like, well, this is just like slavery. I mean, the issue here is, do they have personhood? Well, I can answer that. No, they do not. For slaves, they are people. They were people. So, yeah, they should be treated like people. They should have human rights. But when you talk about a gamete, a zygote, an embryo, a pregestation fetus, to try to pretend like it's not a more complex situation, you're just being disingenuous. And that's the problem with this guy. Now, we covered a story about him recently where he made a similar comparison and he went on and on about how this is the biggest moral issue of our time. Remember, this is coming from a guy, and this is coming from a political party that was 100% in favor of the Iraq War, 100% in favor of the Afghanistan War, 100% in favor of the drone campaign. They never met a war they didn't love. So they claim to be pro-life until we're talking about actual human beings. These guys are also in favor of the death penalty. But then they make arguments like, oh, every human life is precious. Unless I don't agree with that life, then it's not precious. And the most important thing to remember, guys, is in the United States of America, 98% of abortions happen before viability, which means we're dealing with a fetus, or again, embryo, gamete, zygote. We're dealing with entities that feel no pain whatsoever. They cannot. The nervous system has not been developed. And if you really want to take your argument to its logical conclusion, well then, do you really believe that the second you're done having sex, there's 3 people in the room, and as Bill Maher calls it, the pile of goo that is now in the woman's body, it has Second Amendment rights, it has First Amendment rights, you go down the list. That thing is a human being in every single sense of the term. Are you really silly enough to believe that? No, but you can't believe that because, again, to deny that this is a much more complex issue than slavery, you're just being disingenuous. But they believe it in a way that's very religious in nature, which brings up that point as well, which is that if these guys would actually read the fucking Bible, they've been told all along, Christianity and the Bible, that's the reason you should be pro-life and against abortion. But as we've detailed on this show, you go through the Bible, and you'll see that it's actually pro-abortion. I mean, there's a part where God goes through Samaria and rips out the fetuses from the stomachs of the women. That's quite literally God performing abortions. But there's another part of it where God says if your wife cheats on you, you have to give her what they call bitter water. And if she drinks it and then she miscarries, aka has an abortion, well, that was the baby of the son of a bitch she cheated on you with. But if she drinks it and everything's all good, well, then that's your baby and it's okay. So in other words, that's very clearly saying if your wife cheats on you, she should get an abortion. That's in the Bible. So even if you take the religious angle to this, they don't even know what the fuck is in their religion. They're just listening to their dumbass pastors and their parents' pastors and their grandparents' pastors who said all along, Bible against abortion, got to stand up against abortion. That's what you got to do. But that's not true. In my opinion, there's no rational reason to be in the camp that these guys are in, where they say, all abortion off the table.